Hello everyone, welcome to Bicycle Touring Talk. This is episode number 107. My name is George Schlacek. And I'm talking about this bicycle tour I did a few years ago. Well, not just any tour. See, I rode my 30-something-year-old bicycle from the west coast of Canada all the way to the easternmost point of Newfoundland. That was a long tour, so this is turning out to be a long series. On Monday, August the 7th, 2017, I woke up in my tent that was pitched in a wooded area. It was almost like, hey, how did I even get here? Well, I had ridden all over the south shore of Montreal and ended up on this bicycle trail for the second time, way after dark. Since I was camping really close to that trail in what had to be St. Hubert, I wanted to make sure I was up and gone early. That was probably a good idea. As I was packing my tent back into the pannier, a lady in a pink outfit came by on her morning jog trying to pretend she didn't see me. I was still somewhat disoriented, but had a rough idea in which direction to continue, so I got going. After only a short while, I reached a sign. Rue La Roe. La Roe Street. That blew my mind right there, and you're probably wondering why. I had lived on that street from the late 1980s right through to the late 1990s. I could not resist the temptation to swing by the old house and even took a few pictures. It still looked very familiar, even though almost 20 years had passed. The garage I had built in 1990 was still standing and looking good. The driveway was now paved. As I was looking at that, a lot of old memories came back. My two daughters when they were little, my first wife, and then all the effort we had put into this place. The ice storm of 1998 somehow stood out in my memory. We had been without power for a couple of weeks, heating the house only with a wood stove. Have you ever wondered what time travel would be like? Well, I think my experience that day came pretty close. Then I went back to the trail. In the 1990s, that trail had been a set of railroad tracks off limits to the public. Now there was a paved bicycle trail and it actually seemed to go somewhere. There were more streets now with newer houses. I think without that sign, Rue La Roe, I would not have found this place at all. It had changed so much. Finally, I arrived in Chambly and had the choice between McDonald's and Tim Hortons for a quick breakfast and internet connection. I chose Hortons because of the available plug to power up my phone, which was my communication line with Barbara and the weather gods. Searching for bike trails across Quebec brought up La Route Verte, a network of bicycle trails across the province that I happened to be already on. How cool was that? So I'm on a bicycle trail in Quebec. This trail, there's two branches to it. It'll take me to Granby, and then this route number 1 that's called La Route Verte. It actually goes all the way to Quebec City, and I'm going to try it. It's again part of the Trans-Canada Trail. And you know what? So far in Quebec, I'm really impressed with the bicycle trails. Having lived in the area when none of that existed really made me appreciate it. Were all these trails going to be paved and the same kind of great ride it had been up to this point? Route 1 was going to take me to Quebec. Not the most direct way, but much of it on actual trails, separated from motorized traffic. I still had to get a road map, a paper map somewhere. But for now, the trail was easy to follow, and even though the pavement didn't continue that far, it continued with smooth gravel that was perfect for cycling. I had a second breakfast because the $7 Tim Hortons meal just wasn't enough for my appetite. The trail took me past the Chambly Canal, where I got to see the same kind of operations I had seen at the Rideau Canal in eastern Ontario. While passing some of the locks and bridges near Richelieu, I met another cyclist whose bike was loaded, similar to mine. His name was Real, and he was just on the way back to Montreal after an 1,800-kilometer tour. Real gave me a map of the trails he no longer needed and some valuable advice. I'd be better off to divert to Drummondville and continue along the St. Lawrence River, he said. One interesting site I passed was the Friar Dam. This dam was built in the 1930s with the intention of creating a waterway into Lake Champlain in the state of New York. The dam still stands today, even though it was never put into operation. A huge project abandoned decades ago. Time travel, anyone? Yup, I stood there for a while staring at this thing. It was just one of those days. Later, I passed by the parachuting school in Farnham and had a snack there when I met a young lady who had cycled from Montreal to Vancouver a few years before. I gave her my card, and it turned out that she was working in a bookstore and very interested in my book, Destinations Are Fake. This book was published in the same year, 2017. It is still available on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description just in case. The ride was good all the way to Granby, where I had to make the turn toward Drummondville. A guy named Robert helped me find the right set of turns, as there were trails in seemingly all directions. In the end, it was all well marked, and I ended up on Route 4, direction Drummondville, without problems. Not only does Quebec have the most amazing bike trails in Canada so far that I've seen, they also have rest areas. So here I am cooking my late lunch. Gonna be chili and noodles. Life is amazingly simple when you're touring on the bicycle. The ride got kind of lonely after Yamasaki National Park, which suited me fine because I really wanted to cover some distance. The bike trail was awesome, but I really wasn't sure how far I'd be able to take it. I still didn't have any map beyond the Drummondville area, and Google Maps kept suggesting Highway 132. Sooner or later, there had to be a tourist information office where I could get a free provincial road map. Taking a rest and some trail mix and had an apple. Oh, I got about, I don't know, maybe 10 kilometers to Acton Vale, and that should make it about 45 maybe, I'm guessing now, to Drummondville. So I don't know which one I'm going to make tonight. I eventually arrived in Acton Vale and decided to check for a motel. I was overdue for a night in the room, and all my camera batteries were dead too and needed recharging, which is impossible to do when you're stealth camping. For the second time in only one day, I visited a Tim Hortons. When I checked online, it seemed like the only motel in town was fully booked. This wasn't good. But I could always try in person anyways. At least I got to find out exactly where it was. When I arrived at the motel, more or less out of desperation, it turned out that a room was available. The price was very reasonable and the lady who seemed to run the place was really friendly. I was ecstatic. Motel Le Valois turned out to be a great place. The room was newly renovated by someone who really cared. It was comfortable and spotless. I was more tired than I had realized, so I stayed in my room and went to bed. It felt good to be indoors for a change. Well, this shall be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it enough to hit that famous like button. I had ridden just over 100 kilometers that day, much of it on great cycling trails. Was it going to continue that way? I was also overdue for doing some laundry, but there didn't seem to be any laundromat in Acton Vale. Join me for the next episode when it comes out. In the meantime, check out some of my older content, and I appreciate you.